Well, here we are, everybody. We've arrived for race one here at Barcelona, round 7 of the International GT Open 2024 Championship season. 70 minutes of racing lie in front of us at this circuit that extends over to 2.894 miles. That's the lap length, converting to 4.657 kilometers. 14 turns now with the chicane removed, as it was done so since before 2021. And now we're going to witness it here in full flowing action here in the International GT Open. We witnessed a fantastic qualifying session this morning. The weather has been outstanding all day long, 21 degrees, a little more advanced from first thing where we witnessed qualifying, but nonetheless the crowds are gathered and they are watching on expectantly for a great race, and the pit lane is emptied. All the cars and their teams making their way out onto the grid to get this fantastic race, the final frontier. We will be heading to Monza very soon, but this, the final weekend of our double race sprint format, of course. And on pole position, it's all about Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström. There they are right now, making their way to the front of the grid. 3 times they have sat on the podium, but this is their first pole position of the season. And with that, that's our 10th different pole sitter this campaign. What a feat, what a stat. And I can't wait to see how they get on. Only twice, though, have we seen this season the pole sitter go on to win the race. So the odds, the ratio is against them. George Morgan here in the commentary box alongside me, Chris Stevens. Chris, this is going to be a cracker.
It certainly is, and the 2 cars that have won from pole position this year are the 2 that are currently heading the championship, the East Talent Racing Audi of Chris Vassar and Simon Riker, and Alessio De Ledo and Jordan Pepper's Oregon Lamborghini. And they are starting 12th and 16th on the grid, respectively, for this one. So a fascinating race lies in wait over the next 70 minutes. It's a interesting dynamic at the front, with Menzel starting on pole position for the first time this season. Lucas Dunner, off the back of one of his strongest weekends in the International GT Open at his home race 2 weeks ago at the Red Bull Ring, starting alongside him. And Fabian Schiller with a bit of vengeance after not being able to start race 2 with Anthony Bartone's wet weather incident in the qualifying there. It's a new chassis for the number 9 Get Speed crew, the same one they use in GT World Challenge. And then the sister Get Speed car on Pro-Am pole as well. Aaron Walker, the young Brit, doing a great job there. Now, if you tuned into qualifying, you might wonder why I haven't mentioned Dean MacDonald yet, because the Greystone GT McLaren number 33 picked up a 3-place grid penalty for not respecting yellow flags at the end of qualifying. So they have been demoted to 5th position alongside the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes of Dominic Baumann. And looking at the top 6 in Pro, only one of them has actually won a race so far this year. So this does really bode well for us to get our 7th different winner of the season.
Well, I wouldn't counteract Lucas Dunner and Julian Hanses just yet. Of course, Hanses making his first appearance in the International GT Open this campaign. They're going to be starting on the front row of the grid. Lucas Dunner, ever the improver, finding his feet now in the series, of course, formerly in the Euro Formula Open Championship years gone by, but now back under the GT Sport organisation. And Dunner looking to obviously obtain his first victory here in the International GT Open. Dominic Baumann knows a little bit about winning around here. He and Mikael Pitamba put in a huge drive last season to keep the forces of Fabian Schiller in behind, but of course it's Schiller this time who's going to start in front of Baumann in this race. Diego Menchaca as well as Marcos Seber, not necessarily happy memories at this circuit last season, where they were of course in the championship tussle. Of course the crown eventually falling in the hands of the Optimum Motorsport team of Sam Dahan and Charlie Fagg, and obviously East Talent going on to becoming teams champions. Obviously they're chasing the dream of becoming drivers champions as well this season with Simon Riker and Christopher Haase. So lots of exciting action on their part to come. This title fight is obviously brewing very nicely. And speaking of former champions that have raced around this track, Leonardo Polcini, as well as back in the day, it was Benjamin Hites. They went on to take the championship back in 2022 at this circuit. Just having some final words with Jerry Canavicio, the team boss at Team Oregon. Eddie Cheever, of course, Pro-Am champion, reigning alongside Marco Polcini. And Polcini looking to go back-to-back and retain the crown that they caught last season.
Yes, Polcini in a very strong position in the Pro-Am Championship, but that number 27 car is having to take 15 seconds of handicap in this race, as is the East Talent Racing Audi, as is our AM Championship leader Giuseppe Cipriani, and then there are various other handicaps further down the field as well. So it's going to shake up a little bit. This, of course, is our championship leader, most recent race winners, and on home soil as well for the East Talent Racing team. Simon Riker, a bit irked with himself when I spoke to him in the paddock earlier, saying I could have gotten into the 39s in qualifying had I not made a couple of mistakes at the end of the session, and we could have started inside the top 10. So there is still pace to be had inside that car, but 15 seconds of handicap is probably going to limit what they can achieve in this race, I'd have thought. Yeah,
well, that opening stint's going to be crucial, obviously, on part of Simon Riker, but we know he has the raw talent and ability, the pace behind him. He's come a long way since last year. Nicola Marinangeli, another driver, speaking of drivers that have come a long way since last year, of course, already a race winner alongside Vincent Abril at Abril's home race at Paul Ricard. Again, they're right in the thick of it as far as the championship numbers are concerned. Christian Korzanowski, the highest placed AM, actually managed to put his car higher than Alessio Deledda, who'll be starting just behind him. Deledda, a race winner, took his first race win back at Red Bull Ring. Actually, no, his second race win at Red Bull Ring. Do apologise. Also having words with Jerry Canavicio. Of course, Jerry, a very flamboyant character, but also a keen competitor, as we have seen in years gone by. Car Collection Porsche lining up with Timon van der Helm, also a driver moving across from single-seaters and has since found home inside GT3 racing. And now looking to get off to the perfect start here as well at Barcelona. We'll obviously be looking to push his Porsche to the top. We're just casting eyes upon Giuseppe Cipriani as well, right at the front. And the rumours circulating around Rubens Barrichello potentially joining him at Monza at the moment. That's the latest from the paddock. We know that Barrichello had a little test this weekend in the car.
Certainly bodes well for an interesting finale in Monza. Cipriani well placed in the AM Championship. And 35 GT3 cars ready to do battle over the next 60 minutes of racing. Is another wonderful field.
Well, let's take a look and have a look back and see what happened at Red Bull Ring. It was a helter-skelter weekend filled with mixed conditions, and the race got off to a huge start for, unfortunate start for Hash, who came together with Kiki Sack-Nana. Philip Salakada, Libor Melotta, the ISR Audi, plummeting into the barrier, and there was also contact in the pit lane. Anthony Bartone's Mercedes, of course, making contact with a motor park car. Heiko Neumann also going for a spin, heading out to the mid part of the chicane, but Alessio Deledda taking home a second race win of the season alongside Jordan Pepper, and it continued Team Oregon's fantastic run at Red Bull Ring. Race 2 got off to a very, very busy start as well. Rain came down as well throughout the course of the weekend, and it did affect the circuit to a certain degree. It was unfortunate for Moto Park, Marcos Seibert and Diego Menchaca having problems, and Oregon had their own issues as well. But East Talent Audi would retake the championship lead after Deledda stole it after taking the race win in race 1. They got it back straight away, only hours later. So now as we move on and roam up to the final 2 rounds of the campaign, we'll take you through the starting grid. Nico Menzel for the first time, pole position this season alongside Gustav Bergström. They are going to be faced with Lucas Dunner on the front row. Fabian Schiller starting in 3rd place with Aaron Walker alongside in 4th. 2 Mercedes sharing the same row there. Further back, we then have Dean McDonald starting 5th after the 3rd-place grid penalty. Dominic Baumann in 6th. Further down then we have 7th place Diego Menchaca. Ollie Webb will line up alongside for Greystone GT McLaren. Leonardo Polcini starting in 9th. Alongside him Eddie Cheever. Jamie Stanley in 11th with Simon Riker in P12. Then have Marzio Moretti starting 13th. Nicola Marinangeli in 14th place. Christian Korzanowski, highest AM, alongside Alessio Deledda, last week's race winner. We then have Timon van der Helm in 17th with Jim Pla Alongside him, 18th place, Timo Revkal, team boss at Motorpark, 19th. Giuseppe Cipriani in 20th place. Adam Osaka lines up 21st for his own team, Get Speed. Tom Jackson will line up alongside him in 22nd. We then have Libor Malotta in 23rd and Macy Blatchek down in 24th. 25th place for Stuart Proctor. He'll be handing over to his son later on into the stint with Morten Stromsted, who just witnessed his son obtaining rookie victory in the Freca Championship. 27th for Marcin Jedlinski, Alessandro Cosi in 28th, Marcello Hahn in 29th, Florian Scholzer in 30th place. Further down, 31st for Hash, and then we have Puerto Vera for Goodspeed in 32nd. Heading down to 33rd place, Dexter Muller lining up for the Carbahn SPS. Gino Forgione in the Ferrari 296 in 34th. And then Thor Hagen, last but not least, in the Ferrari as well. But all the cars now out on track. The sun is shining, no fears of another rain-soaked affair like we had in Austria, Chris. Different set of affairs for the drivers, but still tricky to manage.
Yeah, I think this is actually our first fully dry weekend we're expecting since Hockenheim back in May, which is crazy to think about. Been a very wet European summer over here, but yeah, I'm told this race is all going to be about tyre management. This has been a huge struggle for everyone out there, really struggling for grip, and then they start sliding more, they wear out the tyres further, so they slide more and they wear out the tyres even more. But the Porsches could be a bit of a dark horse, so Menzel starting on pole position and supposedly should have the better tyre life at the end of both the stints as well. But he has got an army of Mercedes and the Greystone GT McLaren as well, waiting in the wings to try and take that away from him.
Yeah, obviously the big danger as well, Lucas Dunner, as Yannick Mettler watches on, obviously his team, friend and colleague, Dexter Muller, lining up for the first stint. Yannick will be taking over for the second stint. But, and also we're looking furthermore into the garage. Plenty of pensive eyes watching on as the safety car trickles down through towards Europe car, down the hill towards turn 14. Menzel up at the top for their first pole position this season. Our 10th different pole sitter. Only twice have we seen the pole sitter go on to victory so far this campaign. Keep your eyes peeled on Lucas Dunner. Remember, he's handing over to experienced driver Julian Hartzes, certainly a fantastic talent. And he could yet obtain a first podium and a first win this season as well. So keep your eyes peeled. The cars now coming out of turn 14. They'll slowly trickle up towards the lights. Watch for them, wait for them, they'll go green, it's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. Nico Menzel getting a great start, not so good though for Lucas Dunner. Fabian Schiller now looking to go up the inside here of Dunner, but look there, Dean McDonald, a brilliant start after the three-place grid penalty, and he's going to go wheel-to-wheel contact. Dunner making contact there with the McLaren Greystone. Unfortunately, coming out of turn one, many cars going through the escape road, including, I think, that might have been one of the Get Speed Mercedes that went off, the red and white. That, of course, belongs to Aaron Walker, getting an uncomfortable run at the very get-go. But Menzel leads, Schiller up to second. McDonald has taken third place. He's gained 2 places here, Chris.
Yeah, it's a great recovery there for Dean McDonald. Schiller up into second position, and Walker losing the Pro-Am lead to Eddie Cheever, who's flown up the order. He's up to 7th. But this is Paul Cheney trying to get around the outside of Aaron Walker for 8th position overall, that is now. So it wasn't a great start for the Lamborghini factory driver, and he looks to have one of the other Ferraris for quite close company as well. This is on board with Dunner, who's now looking at the back of Dominic Baumann in, what is that, 5th and 6th position overall. Huge kick up of gravel there as drivers are exploring the limits, and one car was practically 45 degrees angle coming out of there, but well saved. Now is that Cheever now trying to get up the inside of Dunner.
Polcini as well, I think. Yeah, on the inside of Aaron Walker.
Walker, yeah.
Yeah, as they fought it out, obviously Walker losing places. Oh, and that's Proctor, Stuart Proctor has unfortunately uprooted. He's not alone, the Vermana Mercedes just in front. Obviously also going off, I think, a little bit wide coming out of Lakea. So again, tie-ups coming out of turn 10 as they now head down through towards turn 14 around New Holland and now bursting down the straight. Menzel clear by 1.2 seconds. He's flexing up at the top here, but Schiller's chasing.
Yeah, certainly is, and McDonald close in behind, Menchaca right in there as well. Remember, Menzel, Menchaca, Baumann, these are all cars that haven't won so far this year. Of course, McDonald hasn't either. They've only been here for one race since the Red Bull Ring. And yeah, Dunner still trying to repel Cheever there, but seems to have found his form now. So top 2 in Pro-Am line astern, but Bolcini separating them and the likes of Stanley, Webb and Van der Helm elsewhere in the Pro-Am fight. And Stuart Proctor into the pit lane. He was moving slowly around the end of the lap, and so for the 66 Greystone GT McLaren, not a great start to this race.
No, not at all. Just appearing out the window here. The garage team going to work on that McLaren 720S GT3. So now we watch the cars climb up the hill out of Wirth Curve and then through Kamsa. Very shortly, the run down towards turn 10 will open up as they head in towards Lakea. Menzel still gapping Schiller right now, 1.4 seconds. The Porsche obviously working brilliantly for them right now around this very technical in places track. Obviously quite a lot of straights as well if you factor on this run heading down towards turn 10, and then obviously you've got the long straight and a couple of other little straights as well making your way through the first sector. But Menzel taking full advantage of it as we now ride on board once more as they cruise down through towards this very fast-paced turn 13. You want to be so careful that you don't really light up the tyres over those curves, because you could end up in that gravel trap on the far left. There's such a small threshold between the track and the gravel at the same time. Christian Korzanowski looking threatening as well, and that's Stuart Proctor out of the car. Somber scenes here, Chris. Yeah,
real shame for them, but the sister Pro car looking very competitive in 3rd position there. So it's McLaren factory driver McDonald going up against Mercedes factory driver Fabi Schiller for a spot on the podium. And it's great to see we have 3 different manufacturers inside the top 3. Of course, it's Porsche, Mercedes and McLaren. Also inside the top 10, Lamborghini and Ferrari as well. So wonderful competition again in the International GT Open. The Pro-Am fight continuing to deliver in spades as well. But Walker doing a great job here of keeping Polcini at bay, the 18-year-old Brit. Only, well, in his first full year of the International GT Open, 3rd year of GT3 competition. Flying through turn 9 now, and Chiva not getting away from Walker here. And so the Spirit of Race Ferrari that's leading the championship in Pro-Am, and Chiva now flying the flag for Polcini's championship campaign because he missed a couple of races. And Polcini, well placed, could be crowned Pro-Am champion later this weekend. But we're back on board with Dunner here as he chases Baumann. 2 Mercedes out of 2 very different camps. And in fact, Baumann is between 2 Motorpark Mercedes here. He's the meet at a Motorpark sandwich with Menchaca just up in front of him, and then Dunner, who we're on board with, just behind him. And let's see if he can get a bit of a tow down the front straight. Even though they are the same car, we can see very different performance characteristics depending on how the teams run their cars.
Triple header of Mercedes between Ps 4, 5 and 6 as they head down in towards turn 1. There's Ollie Webb looking to close up to the back of Jamie Stanley. 2 British drivers meeting here at Barcelona. Let's take a look back at the start. You see Dean McDonald on the inside getting a lovely run through towards turn 1. Just wasn't the start that Dunner was looking for, but it was almost like they came together, or they were separated by some distance through the width of the track with a car stuck in between them. They just met at the apex. We see the Motorpark car going off wide. That is Dunner, of course. Also losing out was Aaron Walker. Did not get a nice jump whatsoever and trickled down the field ever so slightly. You can just see it all come together as we take a look at this replay. The camera guy's doing a great job with this. You can just see the pinch point here now. Yeah. Collision between Lucas Dunner and Dean McDonald, and also the Oregon felt the full force of that too.
I think, yeah, there was contact with the Oregon as well, and so felt the need to go
That's
over the gravel trap. Yeah, exactly. And so Dunner lost a bit of bodywork there, so Walker goes through. Riker went through it as well. I think DeLeda did as well. Oof. This is why Stuart Proctor's ended up moving slowly. He had Florian Schultz on the inside and then gets a hit from Hash in the car collection Porsche. So that's probably done severe damage to his car as well, and it's ended Proctor's race.
That was why they were checking the front left suspension arm, I think, as well, because
that was a big hit.
Quite the impact. Thinking obviously that was a straight head on. You know, the front left of the car meets the front of Hash's Porsche, and Yannick Mettler's response very clear and visible.
Yeah, hoping that his boy Dex can find his way through the melee.
Well, it's like musical chairs, isn't it? Heading through the first lap generally, and this one is no different. But we are now into the 62 minutes and 50 remaining. Menzel still doing a great job. 1.7 now gap to Schiller in behind, but McDonald It's actually closing down to Schiller, half a second between them, with Menchaca 1.4 behind, but he's got Dominic Baumann, which is going to be a very tricky driver to tackle with. Of course, Dominic Baumann, vastly experienced, and with Pitambra, a very exciting young talent that really came into his own last season, taking race wins with Reese Barr, and then, of course, eventually Baumann himself at this very track, Chris.
Yep, it was Pitambra's second victory in the GT Open. It was part of the youngest winning pairing with Reese Barr at Monza after post-race penalties were applied. And but his first win on the road was a sterling defensive drive, fending off the likes of Charlie Fagg and Fabian Schiller. One
of the best we've seen.
So yeah, it was absolutely sensational, and yeah, you can really see the confidence in the young South African, who we'll see out in the second half of the race as Baumann flying the flag for the SBS team at the moment. Dunner, I'm sure, will be a bit irked by being a bit squeezed out at the start, because starting on the front row of the grid and now in 6th position, not really the direction he was hoping to be going in, as the back of Baumann's Mercedes was just moving around there through turn 12. And that's what we mean by the sort of lack of grip. They've been really struggling to keep it all on the straight and narrow so far this weekend. And now Stanley, third of the Pro-Am runners, trying to keep Ollie Webb at bay. Now, neither of them carrying any handicap. And so it could be in for a really good result here, especially with Chiva having to take 15 seconds. And then the number 6 is also unhandicapped. And so they are in, those three cars are in a really strong position.
Yeah, it's not over for Dunner, despite the tricky start. Of course, like you say, no handicap against their name. So when they come in, they can just serve the stop as normal. And look at the driver he's going to be bringing in very shortly. I mean, Julian Hanses has been part of many different championships, most recently in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. Has taken part in also formerly you're a Formula Open driver, much like as well Lucas Dunner.
But yeah, he was with Dunner.
He was, and obviously FIA F3 as well. So you know, he's done quite a varied amount. You know, he's done Porsche Super Cup as well, so he's very useful where it comes to relevant machinery. So obviously getting behind the Mercedes might be a whole other issue, but there are some parities. Oh, here's Riker up the inside with the 65 Motor Park car, and that's a tricky moment. That's Timo Rumpkeil, of course, team boss at Motor Park right there, meeting Simon Riker. Of course, remember, Riker and Haase leading the championship.
Yeah, so championship leaders banging wheels there with the AM car in 17th and 18th overall. Timo Rumpkeil celebrated his 49th birthday yesterday. And in fact, Christopher Haase celebrating his 37th on Thursday as well. Both of them looking for a strong weekend. Rumpkeil and Neumann still trying to keep the AM championship alive, but Cipriani over there has been doing a particularly stellar job. And this is the pace difference between our second and third place cars. It's not much at all, but the gap has come up slightly to about 0.8 of a second between the Mercedes and the McLaren.
It's come down a bit between Schiller and Menzel, because it was 1.7, it's just coming to 1.2. Incidentally, Dean McDonald lapping fairly quickly. He was actually purple in the third sector on the last lap. So, you know, there's more pace there in that McLaren. It's not over, and I think he's starting to really pile the agony on Schiller here, forcing Schiller to try and keep him behind at the same time, close up to Menzel, who could be, perhaps, just managing that tyre wear.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all trying to protect those tyres as much as possible. But we were thinking about this earlier, that you know, if you come in earlier because you've got your quote-unquote slower driver in the car for the first stint, well, then you're going to be really struggling at the end of the race for tyre life and for tyre performance. So it's a bit of a catch-22, really. You'll have your quicker driver in for longer, but you'll be struggling for pace at the end of the race. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. Marin Angeli takes a lunge here on Marzio Moretti, side by side now through turn 11. The Spirit of Race Ferrari on the wrong line, but trying to carry it right round the outside for 14th position. Fantastic. And the Italian's going to get it done round the outside. He gets a golf clap from George Morgan.
I mean, that was exceptional. I mean, I thought first and foremost, there was no move intended at turn 10. He was selling that dummy, I think, just to get it started. I think it caught Marzio a little bit by surprise on the run up through towards Bank Sabadell, and it opened the entry coming through towards the top of the hill. So it worked. It served its purpose. So well done to Marinangeli.
He's now got his teammate Alessio Deleda, car's second place in the championship, on his coattails as well. That's the thing. We just saw Deleda go through the screen. There is Riker, the championship leader, still looking at the back of Timo Rumpf-Kyle. Feeling this is going to be quite a difficult day for East Talent, with 15 seconds of handicap still to come for that car. So I'll be hoping for maybe a well-timed safety car right after the pit window. Back up at the front of the field, Mancharka still lapping very well out there in 4th position. Of course, that was a very difficult weekend in Red Bull Ring, where they had suspension issues, I think it was. And this is not good news for Hash. Now, we saw he was involved in the incident with Stuart Proctor. We can already see signs of wear and tear on the front of that car collection number 12 machine. And so it looks like Hash's race is over already, and he was denied his first Pro-Am podium because of a penalty, and yep, it's going in the garage. That car is out of the race. But in Red Bull Ring, he finished, he would have been on the podium, but he got a time penalty for not serving the handicap correctly, which he missed by 0.04 of a second.
And he had the moment with Kiki Satnana back at Austria as well. He's been in the wars lately,
yes.
as Hash. So unfortunately, the car out of the race. So both cars that were involved in that hefty collision between Stuart Proctor's McLaren. A little bit sideways there from Menzel coming out of turn 1, and Schiller, I think, is going to make use of it. 1.2 seconds still between them, as it was on the previous lap, but he has gapped McDonald, though. It's 1.2.
So Schiller's just done the fastest lap of the race, 1:42, 1:24, 2/10 quicker than Menzel. He's working at bringing down the gap and expanding the gap to McDonald behind him as well. So maybe Schiller's the one who's saved a bit of pace for later in the race.
Well, I've done. Heading down in towards Seat. This time just catching pictures of Dominic Baumann, Lucas Dunner, Eddie Cheever's just gone through as well. Little gap then to Aaron Walker. 2.1, qualified very well, though, I have to say, for the Get Speed Mercedes outfit. And fortunately, just things not going necessarily quite right at the start for him after running off wide. But Polcini is now 2.4 in behind. So, you know, he's done well to maintain a solid gap. But at the same time, obviously, Polcini was battling with the likes of Jamie Stanley, who was up there as well. Stanley's got his own problems because he's got Ollie Webb trying to track him down right now. They've been fighting for a good long while as they head down in towards turn 10 this time. Eddie Cheever still in 7th. The whole second separates he and Lucas Dunner right now as they climb to the top, the precipice of Bank Sabadell, heading down through towards turn 13. The in-swinger, as you can see, Menzel now within a second of Fabian Schiller, who's now starting to go to work here against the Porsche that currently sits in front of him. Here's a replay. Oh, and that's Thor Haugen, I believe. Yeah,
at the back of the field in the Pelham Racing Ferrari 488 it is, not the 296, the sole car that we have remaining. And there is the Pro-Am podium battle, makes its way around the final corner. Jamie Stanley really flirting with danger there towards the gravel trap. And now Timo van der Helm is right on the back of Ollie Webb there as well. And so it's Ferrari, McLaren, Porsche all squabbling for the last spot provisionally on the Pro-Am podium. Stanley continues to lead Webb through there.
They'll know each other very well from the realms of British racing, wherever it would be British GT, I'm sure. Obviously, both stock contenders and do extremely well. Obviously, Ollie Webb representing the Greystone McLaren outfit, and Jamie Stanley still continuing with colleague Laurent de Meus, of course. They'll be doing the driver change. I'm sure Jamie Stanley, though, taking the majority of the stint, with Laurent de Meus then to bring the car home, the Belgian, who is a long-serving competitor as well here in the International GT Open. He's now climb up through towards Firth Curve and ascend uphill There is our leaders, Menzel. Now this time the gap greatly reduced, and I could say the middle sector was far better for Schiller in by about a tenth and a half, I would say, between them. But it's still closing the gap down, and he was faster by over a tenth in the first sector. So those little numbers, they start to add up, and he's only 6/10 behind now, and it's going to be very soon. He'll feel the effects of the slipstream, and it'll get even closer to the back of Menzel's Porsche.
I'll tell you what they add up to, George. About 3.5 tenths on the previous lap. So let's see what it is this time. It was 0.4 of a second on that previous lap. So, yeah, the gap down to 0.6. Really starting to gap McDonald now, and Schiller is on the hunt. This car has had one race win. It was our first race winner of the season back in Portimao. We thought they were going to be real championship contenders, really strong ones. Pro-Am battle further back with the Lippert Lamborghini going up against the Tresor Attempto Racing Audi in 23rd and 24th. So that's Florian Scholz trying to keep Marcek Blasek at bay. But the Lamborghini looking very, very tight. Pulling well clear, though, on the right-hand side. What's that about? Trying to let Morten Stromstedt through, potentially. I wonder what that's about, whether there was some corner cutting earlier in the lap that we didn't see. Well, he's standing his ground on the inside. Dexter Muller right there as well. Alessandro Cosi and Marcelo Hahn all waiting in the wings.
Dexter Muller coming through.
Yes, we made it through unscathed.
Yeah, Dexter Muller managing to pull away and get clear of Alessandro Cosi. They went wheel to wheel heading in towards turn one. So well done, Dexter, on ensuring that that's safe. But now Schiller, battle for the lead here now. Menzel under attack. Schiller's been closing. We've been watching it. And now we're watching the fight unfold here for the lead of the race in the opening stint. They'll run wheel to wheel together still. Locked at a hip. But Menzel's defence coming out of Bank San Medel through turn 13. That was brilliant.
That was almost a carbon copy of what Schiller was trying to do on the last lap last year against Pitamba. Brilliant stuff from Nico Menzel, who's clearly been watching up on previous races here. So Menzel continues to lead as we start the 12th lap of this race. And the gap remains at 0.6 of a second. And that has brought Dean McDonald back into play now. 1.4 seconds covers the top three.
Well, he's given himself a respite here now as Menzel, obviously managing to flex his muscles, heading out of turn 12 through to 13. Turn 14 is where he was then able to light up those tyres, get himself in a position where he had a gap, and we got a little bit more fighting happening further down as well. The Blau Motorsport, of course, a Ferrari. Also in the train as well, we've got the Olymp Audi as well. Now remember, Marcin Jedlinski, I believe, is at the wheel of that one, with Karel Bash stepping in for the second half of the stint. So keep your eyes peeled on that one. I'm sure that'll be looking to make places. This is what happened. He made a mistake coming in towards turn 10, opening the door to Fabian Schiller, who had no qualms about going for the pounce up the inside coming out of Leclerc. Now, ordinarily, you'd expect Schiller to get that move done, but Menzel, the tenacious attitude from this Porsche driver, exceptional. Managing to hold that Tiger line up the inside, find the traction coming out of turn 10, out of turn 11 and 12. He then found it heading in towards Europe car corner, just squeezing his way through. And yes, holding the lead advantage.
That was Carrera Cup experience coming into play there, because that is the kind of elbows out racing you see in Porsche competition on a regular basis. And Menzel doing a fantastic job to undo any of the damage from that little mistake. Looked like he was just locking up the rear tyres going into the braking zone at turn number 10. As further down the Pro-Am battle continues. Marcin Jedlinski making his way through, so he's ahead of Tom Jackson there. He and his teammate Amir Naran, he took his first GT3 race, or his first ever race win actually, in a Ultimate Cup meeting in Mugello a few weeks ago. It was a very close finish there, in fact, as well, coming down to the last lap of the race with Tom Jackson at the wheel. So he knows how to get his elbows out as well. And he might have to down in, 29th? Is it 30th even overall? Pro-Am battle continues to amaze us. 20 cars out of 35 overall for this weekend. And Marcin Jedlinski there in the 777 Olymp Audi, one of the few contenders who can still deny Marco Polcini his second Pro-Am title in 2024.
As it stands, it's looking okay for Eddie Cheever right now. He's still holding that Pro-Am lead, but obviously we'll have to wait and see what happens when the driver change window opens up, and it will do in the next 6 minutes and 30 or so. There is Giuseppe Cipriani. He's leading the train of cars in towards Turn 1, and Florian Scholze, former race winner overall in the International GT Open. A little bit of traffic just in front of the cars. Thor Haugen, who we saw with the spin earlier on for Pellin Racing Ferrari, the 488, now being caught up by the trio that sit in Ps 1, 2 and 3. All of them getting through unscathed, no concerns. Well done to Thor Haugen for that. And there you can see Dean McDonald has also taken full advantage. Menzel's managed to use that to gap his length between he and Schiller to 1.2, and McDonald now 2/10 coming out of the middle sector. But that'll change again, I'm sure, as they make their way through towards the start-finish line. And there's been no consistent trend, as you saw from that chart, where Schiller's been gaining time. Obviously, instances of lapped cars coming into play, but also the fact that the battle has opened up things for Menzel just a little bit. And now it's put the pressure back onto Schiller, because Dean McDonald is not going to let him go.
Yeah, the young Scotsman's finding a second wind here, chasing down the German in front of him. And again, only 1.9 seconds covers the top three. They have managed to build 4.1 seconds to Menchaca behind them. And then it's a bit close between Baumann, Dunner and Cheever. So through turn 4, once again, driver change windows opening in about 5 minutes' time, by the way. But you would imagine that these guys will extend that as much as possible.
Eddie Cheever on the back of Dunner now more so, 7/10, and also Marin Angeli managing to displace Christian Korzanowski for that 13th spot, but needs to try and find 2.3 now between he and Tijmen van der Helm. So now take a look inside the garages. Drivers getting ready for the second stint. Obviously the driver change period where, and I must say, I've garnered a huge amount of respect here this weekend for drivers through that driver change window. They make it look so easy during the pit stop phase. I sat in this Porsche earlier on today, our current race leader, Nico Menzel's Porsche, and to get into it and into the seat, it is so difficult. You really, it's like a Rubik's Cube trying to get yourself in. For me, it was like trying to fit a triangle piece into a circle. It just did not work.
And these guys have a relative luxury with the amount of space they have as well, because the doors are quite big. You think about like the prototypes that have such a small window that the drivers have to climb through, and you wonder why drivers might get a bit aggressive in hauling their teammate out of the car. Well, that is why. It's to speed things up.
Well, I actually spent some time in the SVC garage, obviously the Scuderia Villorba Corsa team, and watched them as they practiced the driver change period back at Austria at our previous round. And I was sat there watching Vlad Lomko and Michael Blanchimont obviously go through that, and they were obviously timing the stint, because it's imperative. It's all about being as quick as possible in order to maximize your speed, not just out on track, but in the pit lane, so just so you can ensure that you are going to finish in a respectable place. Because many races, as we have seen already this season, if we factor in Motor Park, the races can be won and lost during the pit stop phase. That's exactly what happened to Menchaca and Seibert, a fuel issue that caused them, unfortunately, not to get released as quickly as they should have been. So it's so imperative to get it right. And you know, I just got to say, the fact that they're able to do it so quick with the car frame and everything, the belts, everything else. I mean, I didn't even have that.
But radio as well. There is a minimum pit stop time, but it's not a luxurious amount of time to get everything done in. And to be honest, that is more about not rushing things like refueling. So that we don't, start setting cars on fire and stuff like that. But this is an immense battle between these three fantastic pro drivers with three completely different layouts of car. You've got the rear engine flat six Porsche, the front engine thumping V8 in the Mercedes. You've got the twin turbo V8 mid-engined McLaren there as well. Three pro drivers, two factory drivers in this battle as well. Everything that's great about GT3 racing right there.
Yeah. They are true athletes as well, those drivers behind the wheels of these cars. Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström be hoping that they can take their first win this season, but it's going to be quite a long way to go before they can even think about that. Obviously, still another stint to come. Alessandro Cosi under a lot of pressure as Dexter Muller looks to try and fight his way through, but running a little wide there. Muller might be opening up the door behind as we ride on board here with the Swiss driver. Now on the run up through towards the next right at Kamsa, and they'll then beckon their way down through towards turn 10 at Leclerc. Quite a few groups now starting to be formed as we now ride on board here. Obviously here with with this Mercedes, heading down.
Dexter Müller.
Yeah, with Dexter Muller's Mercedes, currently sat in behind Alessandro Cosi. Now, that move was made not too long ago because it's just updated on our timing tower. Marcin Jedlinski also under pressure here at this point. He's got a sea of cars, including the Vimana Mercedes that we saw, just escaping the drama that occurred with that Greystone McLaren of Stuart Proctor.
Yeah, so this is Kotzi making the move into turn 5 on Müller for 25th overall, 10th of the Pro-Am runners. We had a brief yellow flag at turn 10. This is why another moment for the Pelin Racing Ferrari at the exact same spot. I think that was Adam Osaka's car that just went through. So Thor Haugen now, a lap down and quite comfortably last, sadly. And now these two Mercedes, they were closing up a little bit there. The SBS Mercedes of Baumann and the Motorpark Mercedes of Dunner in 5th and 6th position overall. But the leaders making their way through. Driver change window is going to open in about 30 seconds time. So for these guys, it will be the next lap around. 0.8 of a second is Menzel's advantage going on to lap number 17 as Ollie Webb has real drama now. He's ahead of Jamie Stanley now, so he's taken 3rd position in Pro-Am, and Marin Angeli's now on the back of them as well. So this is 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th, all in a line here with the Greystone GT number 24 leading them over the line in 3rd position in Pro-Am. And Tymon van der Helm fancies getting his car collection Porsche ahead of Jamie Stanley as well. He looks on the inside. Stanley closes the door, but just about left a Porsche's width there on the inside. Takes to the escape road and does obey the race director notes, but still comes out ahead of the Porsche. I wonder what will be said about that.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. They might take a dim view of it, but obviously I think Jamie Stanley just taking a little bit more of a cautious road, but might be under scrutiny from the race director. We'll have to wait and see what they decide to do with that one.
Well, in fairness, he didn't do anything wrong there, did he?
No. Well, I think it was more to just avoid any potential danger, as the ISR Audi of Philip Salicado will now jump in, and in place of Libor Milotta, loads of cars coming in. Marcin Jedlinski will be swapping out for Carol Bash, who will be taking the helm. Alex Arkin Acker, who we saw have that huge fight as well with Timo Rumpfkarl back at Red Bull Ring, and there were fisticuffs on offer there as well. I can tell you it was clipped and replayed over and over again on GT Open social media. As we now take a look at the replay here. Now this is a Motorpark Mercedes at the inside of Florian Scholzer, who has now since come into the pit.
So that's the Stromstead car going through for 7th. Oh.
Huge impact. Well, I'd say huge. It was quite a bit of contact there. We'll see it again, and it sent Stromstead very wide coming out of turn 13.
So the Tempo Audi in the wars again. And now, which Lamborghini was that coming into the pitch? Was that Deletta? No, was it the green-tipped one? Might have been Moretti then.
It
was Deletta.
It was Deletta. Deletta and, Pepper will be stepping in now in place of Alessio Deletta. So it's all on him to try and bring some big points for Oregon. Remember, Team Oregon currently leading the team's championship right now. So these final races, final rounds, remember, it's our final weekend of the double sprint weekend, or the double sprint races. Of course, next round, it's the Enduro, much like the Spa 500 we had earlier on this season. We're going to be revisiting the Endurance again, this time at Monza at the Temple of Speed for the grand finale. But more importantly, we have this race to go, and still tomorrow's race too, to set up what I'm sure will be a grand occasion when we head to the Temple of Speed. But there is Fabian Schiller. Obviously, the car since changed after Bartone's incident back at Austria. In comes Thor Haugen, and it's bringing along as well the 42. Mark Vollenwein will be stepping in for Macy Blaszczak as well as they look to undertake these changes. As you can see, him being ripped out. Paolo Roberti will also step in for Thor Haugen.
Yeah, and this is all getting a bit close now with the East Talent Racing Audi. Simon Riker still out there. And now this is a spin for Piotr Vera going through the penultimate corner. Lots of Michelin tyre smoke just in front of the leaders as well, by the looks of it. So I'm sure he's continued on his way. And, I don't think he's handed the car over just yet. Nope, he's in 25th position. We do have yellow flags at turn 13. I wonder if that is Vera's car, and he hasn't actually been able to get it going. So I'm sure we'll see when we get down there.
Well, back to the front. Menzel still in front, but that gap has come down still. 6/10 now, and McDonald is actually 2.9 behind Schiller. So whether McDonald had an error of sorts, because I mean, he was only 2/10 down in the first sector. I mean, granted, it's still lapsed time, but that seems like an extraordinary amount.
Yeah, really not sure what's happened there. Now there's the Lippert. Oh, we almost had contact again in the pit lane there between the Lippert Lamborghini and the Oregon Lamborghini.
Of course, remember we had contact with the with Schiller and Bartones and Motor Park, didn't we?
Yeah, it was the Neumann getting in the car. It was the Neumann Rubcal Mercedes. But East Talent Racing in the pit lane. Marzio Moretti, the number 19, in as well. Pit lane is a hive of activity out there at the moment. Vera has got it going and is in pit lane, but we still have yellow flags to the timing screen.
Looks like a little bit of, it looked like there was a bit of smoke coming out of the rear left. It might be just the heat coming out, but then again, you don't generally see steam if there's rain, but maybe the brake's getting overheated there, Chris.
Maybe, to be honest, I was looking at the other screen, so I didn't actually see where the smoke was emanating from. Our top two continue to circulate out at the front of the field, as now that 95 Motorpark car has Thomas Eichen at the wheel of the car, so expect that one to move forward. But still only 0.6 of a second between Menzel and Schiller, who have been punch and counter punch, and again Schiller was 0.2 quicker on that previous lap. And they're really starting to drop Dean McDonald now. His last lap was a 43.2 and some 0.8 of a second slower than Schiller. I wonder if he's burned through the Michelin rubber.
You do wonder, because it does seem that he's forfeiting pace. I mean, that's a whole second. I mean, since we last checked it, remember, it was 2.8 before, and we thought it was bad then, but it's 3.8 now. That means he's forfeited an entire second over the course of a lap, which is less than ideal, and it could yet increase even more as we now watch Menzel now come out of turn 9 down towards turn 10.
Well, of course, McDonald is more accustomed to the Pirelli rubber, isn't he? Racing in his various other competitions, whereas we use the Michelins in the International GT Open. And to be honest, we're not used to having this kind of scenario where the wear has been so high and really struggling for grip out on track. So I'm not surprised that he's fallen afoul of it, considering it's only his second race weekend in the International GT Open, as Giuseppe Cipriani, AM Championship leader, brings his car into pit lane. And I've rudely left Cipriani out of the team boss who also race their cars battle, because Cipriani does own the Il Baron Rampante team.
Yeah.
And so it is a three-way fight. That Schiller had a bit of a swapper there through turn 1, and that's cost him a bit of ground, I think, because the gaps started to come back out again. And you see, just that one little moment can make such a huge difference. Now Polcini into pit lane as well from 8th, handing over to DeFalco, what is that now, his 4th teammate of the year?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rolf and Eichen not appearing this time around, and DeFalco stepping in here for this one. So obviously, changes here on offer. So now they look to put the tyres on the car. Of course, remember, it was Simon Connor Prim not too long ago.
They won in Barcelona, in Budapest together. And then
wasn't a bad first visit for Simon Connor Prim.
Pretty good. And Amory Bondwell in Paul Ricard.
Yeah, absolutely right. So this time, Alberto DeFalco will be taking the stint for the Oregon Team 63 Lamborghini. So we watch Schiller once more try to chase after Nico Menzel, who's done a brilliant job on this stint. I mean, when we factor in, of course, that defensive effort coming out of turn 11, turn 12, it was a mighty charge from Schiller, who looked to pounce on the opportunity, but it was slammed shut. As now Nico Menzel, race leader, comes into the pits. A decisive action in play here by Car Collection, and Bergstrom will be looking to bring this car home. They'll be looking to better themselves after Austria. They were so close to success, but Deletta was lapping faster towards the closing stages. Could they turn it around this time?
And they've given him clean air to do it in as well. So that's a brave call from the car collection team. And so it is the young Swede, Gustav Bergström, nearing the end of his maiden GT3 season now, getting on board the car. Of course, Fabian Schiller will be handing over to Anthony Bartone when he eventually comes into pit lane. But there is Schiller, and he is now going to unleash the taps, I'd have thought, on his number 9 Get Speed at Mercedes. Marco Polcini now getting aboard the Pro-Am leading Spirit of Race Ferrari.
Looks like Jamie Stanley, Timon van der Helm moving up as now more cars come into the pits, and with Marco Polcini now in the car here, obviously looking to further his Pro-Am lead at this stage. Still Aaron Walker leading that on track, but bear in mind still has to box, and so does Jamie Stanley and Timon van der Helm. Of course, Timo Rumpf also needing to box too. Andre Borodin stepping in for Ollie Webb, who we saw fighting it out with Jamie Stanley not too long ago. The two British drivers coming together. There is Gustav Bergström being released out onto the track. Now, where will he come out? Of course, Polcini, remember, already boxing. Will he retain the race lead here at this point? He's clear at this stage. Julian Hans is also coming through. Marcos Seibert also moving up the order after replacing Diego Menchaca as they now head around the final corner. There is Fabian Schiller, still remaining out on track. Now, it's important for Schiller. Needs to try and make the most of whatever time is left. We've got just over 4 minutes and 10 left to go. So now he's going to be putting his foot down to the floor. He might come in at the end of this lap.
Not just whatever time he's got left, whatever tyre he's got left
that's
as
true,
well.
yeah.
And of course, that means they'll have a bit more rubber at the end of the race as well. So this could be a long game here for Get Speed, as Tom Jackson handing over to Amir Naran, who's only in his 4th race, I think it is, now. The Zimbabwean driver, who was actually very impressive when they won in the Ultimate Cup meeting. He was circling around on slicks in the rain, which many other drivers, as we've seen in the GT Open, they've fallen afoul of that in the past.
We saw plenty of dancing back at Austria.
Yes, we did, didn't we? So Jamie Stanley now finally bringing the AF Corsa Run Ferrari into pit lane. Laurent de Meus taking over. And so who have we got left of that lot? Still Walker and Van der Helm in Pro-Am to decide the podium there. Of course, the 27 car should come out quite a bit further back than where it came in from. Kiki Saknana now ready to get aboard the AM Get Speed Mercedes, with Adam Osaka yielding the car. So Schiller continuing to circulate. Very similar liveries now on their number 9 and the 786 now from Get Speed, but of course the chassis that they would normally run in the International GT Open has been too badly damaged from the Red Bull Ring incident in qualifying that stopped them even participating in race 2 weeks ago. Schiller goes for another lap. 2.5 minutes left before he can, for him to come in.
He should come in with 40 seconds of the driver change window remaining, so there's still a chance here for him. Might be a little bit less, actually. Could be more like 20 to 30. But
this will have to be the lap, I think.
Yeah,
won't it? Yeah.
Well, it'll have to. It'll have to absolutely be the lap. We've only got 2 minutes and 13 to go. Bear in mind his last lap was a 1:42.851. So Schiller remaining out. With more activity down at Greystone, as James Kell will step in for Dean McDonald, and they'll change the tyres on the car, get them set, ready to go out once again. Also, Mikel Pitamba stepping in a race that he won last year alongside Dominic Baumann in that defensive effort, requisite almost of a little bit of Menzel, shades of Pitamba at Barcelona last season. As Schiller now heads out of the set corner and up towards Wirth. It's imperative that this is a clean, well, pit-in lap. He needs to ensure that he maximises everything with whatever's left on that Michelin rubber, as we now see more changes taking place at Car Collection Porsche.
News from the stewards' room: the Tresor Attempto Racing Audi has been given a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision with car 95, which would have been Morten Stromstead. So they've decided that Florian Scholze was to blame for that one. That's not the incident we saw, though, with Stuart Proctor, I don't think.
No, it was the one climbing up here, I think.
Further just around the lap. So we'll see now as Schiller finally swings right and brings that car into pit lane. and Aaron Walker, the only other car left to do so as well. So the question is, where's he going to come out relative to Gustav Bergström? The 15 car, trying to find it on the driver tracker, is, where is it? Somewhere in the middle sector, I'd have thought. Well, George is having a look for it on the track map as Anthony Bartone clambers aboard the number 9 Get Speed Mercedes. There you see it. It's not like getting in your road car. You don't just pop one leg in and so you've got to properly climb into it. Aaron Walker also in the pit lane here, but this is the Valour Corsa Mercedes. Michael Blanchemont now aboard and about to leave. This is Aaron Walker, the car that started on pole position in Pro-Am. Valentin Pierberg now getting on board, and that team looking for yet another Pro-Am podium.
Oh, here we go.
The 4th of the season, and this is where Bergström is. He's trying to get around Cipriani here, and so coming into the 3rd and final sector now. Bartone now aboard the car, and it's going to be absolutely crucial to see where this car is when they leave the pit lane.
They've just left now. I've just peered my head out the window, and I can already see that the Mercedes has just left its pit box. So this is crucial here now for the car belonging to Gustav Bergström. There is Schiller just making his way down out of pit lane. He's going to stay within those white lines as they head down towards turn 1, but comfortably in front here, Anthony Bartone, after making the swap in place of Fabian Schiller. Those final moments, those dying laps before the driver change period came to an end. They have paid dividends here for Get Speed, and Anthony Bartone, who's now got clean air in front of him. He can just focus on the tarmac that's in front. He's the race leader. The question is, can they bring home a second win of the season?
Well, that's the question now. 2.4 seconds between Bartone and Bergström. Those extra laps from Schiller really making the difference there. And they've got the Pelham Racing Ferrari right between them as well that Bergström's going to have to round up. And Julian Hanses in the 96 car that he took over from Lucas Dunner has emerged in 3rd position ahead of James Kell. Now, that Greystone GT McLaren had 5 seconds of handicap to take, so that might explain why it's dropped a spot there, with Marcos Seibert in 5th and Patamba now in 6th. And somehow Marco Polcini has only dropped to 2nd in Pro-Am, behind Valentin Pierberg. So that is really quite impressive, despite its hefty handicap there. But here is, we're on board with Hanses here, the former Carrera Cup racer. He's got 2 squabbling Lamborghini right in front of him, which is Cipriani and the Lippert Lamborghini that's trying to go right round the outside of turn number 12 and does manage to do so. So that's Mark Wallenvijn putting a move for position, 29th to be precise, right in front of him, and Hans has got to be a bit patient here through the final corner.
Yeah, he's got to try and get a clean exit, a clean runner here on the Lamborghini that sits in front. Obviously, Giuseppe Cipriani in a title fight of his own, but obviously in this case, Julian Hans is different class, obviously in the overall category, but not enough straight line speed being utilised here. Won't go late on the brakes into turn 1.
Potential dramas for Oregon, but thankfully not for the championship leading or contending car. Car number 19 is being investigated for team members working on the car before it was fully stopped. So jumping the gun a little bit there.
Yeah, just breaking away from the back markers here. Julian Hanses, obviously this is a key moment for them. We could be in for a real grandstand finish here. Bartone now witnessing Bergström get to within a second near enough. So that Porsche is closing, and Hanses, if he can get a clean run on the back markers that currently lie in wait, he could yet figure at the end of this race. We've only got 24 minutes and 55. I say only, that's quite a lot in the context of this race. And in the last lap alone, obviously so far, Bergström, their car, lapping in the 142.923s in that last lap. We'll have to see why about Bartone stacks as he completes his first official lap here out on circuits. We watch the Greystone GT of James Kell, obviously 1.5 seconds just in behind Julian Hanses, but Motorpark have a real strong hand here in this top 5, as now once again we see more back marker switching, with now James Kell moving on through. 5-second penalty for an unsafe release for car 42. That's Mark Wallenvijn who has been given that, currently sat down in 29th place. He has got 2 seconds between he and the car behind him, though.
That was against the Lamborghini that we saw earlier, wasn't it? So just coming out in front of the Oregon car. Bartone was kicking up a little bit of gravel out of the last corner there. He's feeling the pressure as the American racer as Bergstrom continues to close in the gap now just under 0.8 of a second as Bergstrom hunts for his first victory in the International GT Open and Car Collections first in the series as well. Bartone trying to claim a second one. Hasn't been on the top step of the podium in the International GT Open since the opening race in Portimao. And it has been a long and arduous campaign for both of these drivers, but we said there are many contenders for a 7th different victor this season. That blue Porsche is one of them.
Yeah, and with these two squabbling as well, it will invite Hanses into the fight, and then maybe they'll bring along James Kell, maybe they'll bring along Marcos Seibert, and it's another great drive as well for Mikael Pitamba, currently sat in 6th spot, nearly 5.6 in behind Seibert, as it stands at a track that they know they can compete at. He's been here before, but all eyes here on the front of the order is now once more Bergstrom chasing down a race leader. The only difference is, obviously, Bartone isn't lapping faster like De Leder did back at Austria. This time, Bergstrom has the ball in his court and will look to rise up through towards Bank Sambadel. The question is, can he unlock something in this Porsche to garner momentum here against Bartone's Mercedes as they now streak down through towards the next right-hander at turn 13. 14 will be next, and they'll then send it down the long straight as the Mercedes got enough grunt, though, to maintain the straight line speed, keep that Porsche at bay.
Well, the Porsche has been registering a little bit faster, about 4 clicks faster down the front straight, but the Mercedes is going to get a little bit of help here from the Olymp Ferrari in front of him. But of course, that's going to give Bergstrom a double toe. That rear wing rattling around in the background as it goes through the turbulent air. Both cars make their way through on Stanislav Jedlinski into turn 1. But there you see the difference in lap time between Bergstrom and Bartone. Last time around, some 4/10 quicker. Hansen's not quite doing enough to close them down, but if they start squabbling, that could change. Bergstrom's really pushing here through turn 4. Does he have a tighter line here? Through the right-hander, not quite. And he's flashing the lights. There we go, touring car maneuver, that one is. Trying to unsettle Bartone, who looks like he's run a little bit wide through 5. That could give Bergstrom an opportunity. Not quite the nose to tail now down the hill.
Yeah, flashing those lights as well. Gustav Bergstrom just letting Bartone know that he is there. There's twice now that Bartone has gone wide on this lap, and a little twitch coming up the hill out of Verth corner. Is it worth it though, Bergstrom, as they head through towards Kampse at turn 9, then a stretch downhill where they'll meet Lekea. Another chance here for Bergstrom. He knows how well this Porsche can behave. He was brilliant as well. Remember, he hasn't been racing in these cars that long. The Swede coming into this series with Car Collection, and I must say, he's risen to the occasion. Again, a little wide from Bartone. The Porsche finding that tighter line, sticking to that curb as they now rush round through towards turn 13. Bartone giving it absolutely everything, trying to put his big defensive helmet on here this time as they rush around turn 14. 20 minutes and 43 to go. The straight will take them down towards turn 1 again, and here comes Bergstrom. He's now in the wheel tracks. He has got the straight line speed. Has he got the pace though to break ahead of this Mercedes? Another flash again. He's a menace on the back here of Anthony Bartone as far as he's concerned, and he will continue to be one for as long as this race carries on.
Well, this is brilliant driving from Bartone to not crack under this pressure, which is immense right now. And he's run wide out of 3. I spoke too soon. He's made a little mistake there, but he's shut the door before Bergstrom could try and walk through it. The Porsche's practically pushing the Mercedes through turn number 4 here. Going up towards turn 5 again. This is where Bartone made a little mistake last time around. He covers to the inside. Bergstrom tries to find the up and under it again, running down the hill. It is going to be absolutely nose to tail. We've got the Polcini Lamborghini that's under investigation for its pit stop, but we'll come back to that later because it's lead fight absolutely thrilling, and Bergstrom on the inside towards turn number 9. Bartone shuts the door. Incredible stuff.
Fantastic defence from Anthony Bartone where he needed it most, but turn 10 can offer plenty for the Porsche now. He'll look to try and do the swap. The up and under up the inside, surely climbing up the hill towards Bank Saint-Medel, but Bartone placing the car in all the right places. The Porsche now looking to the outside, back to the inside here, and Bergstrom, what a fantastic manoeuvre. He managed to make it happen through Bank Saint-Medel. No icebergs here, just Gustav Bergstrom taking the race lead here within the final 19 minutes.
The International GT Open's very own Iceman now leads the field, and Car Collection have in sight now their first victory of the series. But can Bartone respond? I wonder. I mean, that was sensational stuff. Bergstrom managed to squeeze that car through a gap that was maybe a Rizzler's width bigger than the Porsche he was driving. So that was the mistake from Bartone at 3. Look at that. All over the curbing, on the right and on the left. Fantastic stuff from Gustav Bergstrom. In his first year of GT3 competition, don't forget, and he's muscled his way through there on Bartone.
I mean, you can't understate how brilliant that truly was. There wasn't a huge gap there, but somehow fed that Porsche through. The switchback was on. You know, Bartone did a great job. I mean, on any other day, he might have held that lead, but credit to Gustav Bergstrom, the Swede sensation, now in a bid to potentially bring Car Collection this particular car in question. That's for sure. Nico Menzel doing a brilliant first stint. They've opened the door on potentially taking a first race win and also a 4th podium this campaign, but they've got still 17 minutes and 50 to bring it home. Julian Hanses, though, still lapping very quickly here, Chris.
Yeah, do you want to see the lap time? That last time Bergstrom was in the 45s, Bartone 46, Hanses 43.
And look, you can see them both. Oh, that's that looks
Borodin.
like it's Borodin, Andre Borodin coming through. And unfortunately going off has taken to the escape, but we've got to rejoin the race leaders because this is all starting to unfold, because Julian Hanses very soon is going to be on the back of these two, and there's going to be an immense fight in the dying moments of this race.
Yeah, so this is slightly further down. Thomas Eichen and Timo Rumpkeil, it's team bosses, Heiko Neumann, I should say, sorry, in the 65. I think it's just been passed there by Eichen with Sagnana and Cernicchiotto all in close proximity there as well. Michael Blanchimont just up the road for Eichen as well with the white Mercedes. Eichen goes for it on the inside. They're squabbling for 9th position in Pro-Am. It's great stuff again. Still Pierberg leading that category ahead of Polcini with Bashar Mardini. The car that was, just as I said that, Laurent de Meijers found his way through in the car that was being driven by Jamie Stanley earlier in the race, as Eichen continues to try and look for a way past that Scuderia Vlova Corsa Mercedes of Michael Blanchimont. And up the inside into turn 9, no, not quite. It's a flurry of Mercedes here from SVC, Motor Park and Get Speed, and then 2A, of course, a Run Ferrari in close proximity. It's Alam Kader now on the inside in the Blau Ferrari on Kiki Sagnana, and Giorgio Cernicchiotto finds his way through as well. Neumann incidentally leading in AM, by the way, ahead of Kiki Sagnana, so the two leaders in the AM category close together as well there, separated by a couple of cars now, but they've got their pros aboard, so I can't imagine that'll last too much longer.
No, not at all. They head down the long straight once more, wheel to wheel. They will continue. Still the 69 Mercedes trying to hold its own here right now, but now being challenged. They head down. It's Michael Blanchimont, Thomas Eichen now up the inside. Smoothly does it there from Eichen. And he will take the place, move up to P20 in our timing tower. Still a fair bit of ground to cover to track after Alex Arkin, Acker, the Blau Motorsport as well in behind coming into this fight. Of course, Alan Coder at the wheel as well of this one. Heiko Neumann since a little bit further back as well up the inside here. And again, another fantastic move here for the Blau Motorsport Ferrari. Of course, the team, remember, heading out of turn 4 down towards turn 5. And look already, Thomas Eichen drawing clear from the bunch in behind.
Yeah, Thomas Eichen there, pro in the Pro-Am lineup. Having taken over from Morten Stromstead, trying to make his way through the order. Check in with our championship protagonist, by the way. Christopher Haase, 13th with just under 15 minutes to go. Jordan Pepper in the number 10 Aragon Lamborghini in 8th position and unlikely to advance past 7th. But a 5-second time penalty for the number 17, Marcos Sieber and Diego Menchalka, Mercedes, for track limits abuse.
Well, that hands it over to Pitamba then, because he sat in 6th place, only 2.2 away from Sieber.
Yes.
So opens the door for more points for Pitamba as well.
But it should be it, because Pierberg is 13 seconds behind them.
Yeah.
Depends on how close Pepper gets in the closing stages of the race.
Well, we'll soon find out what can happen in 14 minutes. Well, I can say in the last lap, Julian Hanses was 2 seconds slower than Anthony Bartone over the last run. 145 as opposed to the 143s that were being set above. So clearly had an issue somewhere. He's brought the time back in to within 3 seconds, but not an ideal moment for Julian Hanses, who is very much in the fight for the win of this race.
And James Kell in the 46s last time around as well, and Sieber's really closing in on him as well. So that blue Mercedes might be carrying a 5-second time penalty now, but he's still going to pursue this Greystone GT McLaren in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, towards turn 1 now. We watch Kell head uphill, closely followed by Sieber. Within a second, 8/10 the difference between the pair. Obviously 5 seconds never ideal for anyone. Obviously Sieber knows that, and Timo Rumpfkarl, of course, after his first stint, watching alongside Lucas Dunner, who of course put in the first stint for Julian Hanses, who now sits in the Car 96 motor park. Both of them, 2 motor parks, currently sat in the top 5. Not a bad place for them to be, but obviously that might all change come the end of the race with the time penalty instigated at the very end of this race. They now head downhill up towards Verth Curve. James Kell on only his 2nd round appearance here in the International GT Open, making their debut back at Austria. It was a Scottish pairing with Dean McDonald, and they were brilliant back at Austria as well. Maiden podium on the same weekend as they would begin their opening round in the championship. Hopefully we'll get to see more of them again as Greystone build on the entries they've, of course, built up in, entries over time, making their first appearance in the International GT Open over the last couple of years, and now seeing more cars represented by them. They have become the face of McLaren for this 2024 campaign.
It's been wonderful to see McLaren back in the pro category, and Greystone GT making that step up, having previously run Pro-Am cars almost exclusively. And yeah, Julian Hanses back on the pace now. He's back in the 42, so I don't know whether he had traffic on that earlier lap where he lost a lot of time, or if he made some sort of mistake, but Hanses is closing in on Bartone. In fact, he's the quickest of the top 3 at the moment.
It's 1.7 now between he and Bartone, so he's really started to really dig his heels in now and get to work on this front 2. He's not out of the question here, Chris, to win this race. There is still a chance here for Julian Hanses.
Yeah, 11 minutes left on the clock. 3.0 covers the top 3. I couldn't find anything for Julian Hanses today. He raced in GT3 before, specifically.
Porsche Carrera Cup, mainly. Yeah. That's what he's been racing in.
No, exactly.
So the ACC Germany, and also in Porsche Super Cup.
Yeah, so this is a step up for him. Well, we'll double check that with him at some point in the weekend. But certainly his first major GT3 competition, and looking to have a podium here. And this is Christopher Haase making his way through on Artem Petrov, or at least trying to. It's for 12th position, but somewhere after this maneuver. Oh, no, timing screen finally updated. It was just taking a little while there. I was about to say that Petrov must have got back through, because it still said he was ahead. But no, it's now updated to say that Haase is in 12th, Petrov in 13th. And there's a real chance here that East Talent aren't going to come away with any points in this race, because he's 14 seconds behind Polcini, who's then 6 seconds up the road from Alberto De Falco, who's the last car in the points.
Yeah, and inadvertently, remember, Pepper, of course, sat in P7 at the moment. There will be points going towards Alessio De Leda in terms of his championship hopes. So, obviously, the the gap will come down between them once more. As now we watch the squabbles further back. Of course, Giorgio Sinegiotto trying to force his way through. And there's our race leader, Gustav Bergström. Just look at the traffic that he has, obviously in front of him, including Anthony Bartone as well. Looks like there's been... Bartone's just coming up in behind, so this is the sister Get Speed that's the same colour. And obviously Bergström now trying to force his way through the field. Blue flags being waved by the marshals, but this is still going to be an imposition for the race leader.
Meanwhile, 10-second time penalty for the Spirit of Race number 88, Gino Fulgioni and Michele Rugelofer, causing a collision at turn 10. But yes, the leader's now in a heap of traffic. It's certainly a better one than what you see on the M25 on a Monday morning, but still a nuisance for the likes of Bergström, Bartone and Hanses. And this could really close things up between the second and third place cars as Bartone tries to put a lap on his teammate. The Motorpark Mercedes now right up his chuff. And Hanses has to go the long way around 12. That compromises him ever so slightly, loses a car length or two to Bartone, and then will find himself booked up behind the Spirit of Race Ferrari as well. That's the one that we just mentioned that has the penalty, and the lapped Motorpark Mercedes as well, which I imagine is the Heiko Neumann car. But here comes Julian Hanses. He's got a run here on Anthony Bartone. It's Mercedes on Mercedes. Get Speed versus Motorpark heading into turn one. It's looking very even, Stevens. Bartone was slightly earlier on the brakes there, and Hanses looks one way, looks the other. But as they're trying to navigate the traffic at the same time, there was no way through.
No, not at all. Still, the gaps remain relatively the same, but he is pinned to the tail of Anthony Bartone. Needs to get past him soon, or as soon as possible, should he want to take a race win here. Does have another look up the inside, this time coming through towards turn 4. It wasn't on offer. Bartone doing enough to maintain the place, but you've got still a string of cars right in front, and importantly enough, he's coming up on another Motorpark car that is currently sat in front, obviously belonging to the 65 of Heiko Neumann in the AM contest, and now they're going to run wheel to wheel, this time on the run down towards Wirth. Of course, Neumann giving the space, allowing them to go under blue flags. Remember, car 69, 3-second time penalty for rejoining before the bollard, gaining the advantage. As now we watch them climb over the hill once more, coming out of turn 9 at Capsa, full power, then downhill. This is another chance here for Julian Hanses to obviously move up again, but again Bartone holding on for now. Obviously no move currently made by Hanses, but he might chance his arm heading uphill towards Bank Sambadel. Better run here for Hanses here at his first weekend of International GT Open competition. Contact between them, and Bartone somehow holds on to second.
Well, Bartone getting his elbows out again. He wasn't going to take that one lying down, was he? But these two Mercedes starting to throw punches in the final stages of this race. Heading back down the straight once again. What's the toe going to be like for Hanses as he heads down there? The rear wing rattling as it did on the Porsche when he was following the Mercedes down this front straight earlier on, as we got the Pro-Am car swap in position into turn 1 right in front of them. Again, Hanses has to keep staring at the back of the Mercedes, but Bartone had a little wiggle through turn 1. That's compromised him here. Hanses looks to the outside of turn 3, but he can't make that work either. That doesn't give him a run on the inside into 3. Again, Bartone is wide through the exit of 3. That compromised him the last time he tried to do that. So here comes the German again, pushing Bartone through turn 4 now and trying to find his way up the inside, but Bartone will not give him the line going into turn 5.
Yeah, similar defensive manoeuvre that he tried on Bergström as well not too long ago around this particular portion of track, coming out of Seat and now leading through towards the next run up Wirth. Again, once more they'll tackle Kamsa corner, and they're catching up once more to more lap traffic, and this is going to cause a bit of a complication as far as Bartone's concerned. He's got a war on 2 fronts here. Not only has he got to worry about the lap cars, but obviously he's got Hanses right behind him, whose pace has been undeniable thus far. As they head down now in towards Laquea again, he's got to try and squeeze past the traffic, and Hanses is going to try and follow him through, coming up once more through towards Bank Sambadel. This time again, a look to the outside from Hanses. He's going to try his arm up the inside. They're going to run side by side again. This time though on the run towards Europe car, it will be Hanses who hails here in the final sector, and he's broken down Bartone here in the latter stages of this lap.
Very similar manoeuvre to what Bergström put on him in the end, and Julian Hanses absolutely flying. Where's this kid been for the last few years. Motor Park has just done such a great job of finding these youngsters who haven't necessarily had the budget to continue racing, and they've given them a home here in GT racing. And if that right there isn't an advert to do more of that, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, we got more to come as well. Rumours of Levente Ravesh. Remember, of course, the announcement from Motor Park. We will be seeing Levente Ravesh in GT3 machinery very soon, moving across from the Euro Formula Open Championship. So the theme continues at Motor Park.
Bartone's really struggling here for rear grip because James Kell is now on the back of him. He had another twitch through 3 just there as we see the move again from Julian Hanses for second position. Just a little hip and shoulder on the exit of the corner. Oh, and in the middle of the corner as well. Oh, that was the previous lap around, wasn't it? When he didn't quite make the way through. And then this is when, yeah, this was the previous lap when they made contact. And Bartone held on to the place, but of course a lap later he made his way through. Lucas Dunner very happy with that one on the left-hand side there, but yeah, Bartone's really struggling for rear grip. James Cole and Marcos Seibert right on the scene as well. More penalties coming through for the 25.
Giorgio Sergiotto getting punished for that, obviously taking over from Alessandro Cosi
struggling to keep up.
Yeah, and you know, obviously it's a phenomenal. It's been a phenomenal tussle. This, unfortunately, I think with all the battling that Julian Hanses has had trying to take down Bartone, of course, he has forfeited just over 3.5 seconds between he and Bergström. So it's given the Swede a giant platform to take this one home, but obviously anything can happen. We have had the lap traffic cause somewhat of an imposition to some of the drivers out there already. Obviously Bartone can tell you about that more than anybody right now, and now he's got James Kelly behind, and look at Seibert! Oh, he's left that very late! Oh, no! No! James Kell getting caught late on the brakes. Came in a little too hot, Marcos Seibert. And now the Greystone McLaren that was looking so quick on this stint would have no doubt come up against Anthony Bartone. Here's the moment once more in towards turn 1. You can read it like, well, it's illustrated here, is it not? Late on the brakes, Marcos Seibert.
You can read it like a book, yeah, George, because that was a lunge, and unfortunately, I think that 17 car is going to be handed a second penalty in this race. Poor James Kell there. Was fighting for the podium again, and is now stuck in the gravel trap. A real shame for them in the closing stages of this one. Only 2 minutes left on the clock. Bergström leads by 3.5. That incident is under investigation. Unsurprisingly, yellow flags are out at turn 1. I imagine they'll just remain there. It's a bit late to have a safety car now, with Bergström presumably will start the final lap of the race next time around.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Still continuing to flash just to let the lap cars know that he's coming through. Wants to make safe the victory. Obviously, this Amir Naran causing a slight complication. Just had to dodge and weave as he made his way through turn 14, but crossing the timing line for what we can only imagine will be the final lap of action. And this one will be one that Car Collection will enjoy. And speaking of collection, it'll add to their podium collection, but more importantly, a first race win is now in sight.
And on the final lap of the race, the last spot on the Pro-Am podium is up for grabs between Philippe Salacada and Carol Bash. They're separated by only 0.4 of a second at the moment, and Christopher Haase might still just be able to sneak into the points. He's 2 seconds behind Marco Polcini in 10th position overall.
Yeah, still opportunities there. Sergiotto as well coming under pressure. Well, trying to break past Naran. At the same time, we have got Julian Hanses also trying to make his way through the traffic. Oh! Hanses spinning, coming into turn 4. And that could, well, I mean, Bartone now will have obviously taken P2. Pitamba has gone through as well. This could have handed Pitamba a podium.
I'm lost for words, George. I cannot believe that.
One of the truly bizarre endings to a GT Open race. Hanses in his first weekend of GT Open action, on the cusp of getting his debut maiden podium, and it all goes wrong at turn 4, Chris.
And that's just the struggling for grip that we've been talking about all day, George. It's just gone round. And I'm sure he would have been thinking, how the hell did that happen? And so Seibert will have, so Bartone's back up into second. Seibert will be third, but with a 5-second time penalty, so that will put Pitamba on the podium.
Well, speaking of collections, they've collected podiums. This will be their fourth, but for the first time, it's Gustav Bergström, a flash of the lights. You are victorious for the first time this season. A first win for Car Collection Porsche this campaign, with Anthony Bartone bringing the car home in second place. And no question, the celebrations, jubilant here in the pit lane. The Swede, the sensation, and Nico Menzel as well, they've done it. They had heartbreak back at Austria. They could not quite close down Deleda, but they've been given a reprieve here at Barcelona. And what a win that is too, Chris.
7 different winners in 2024. Sensational stuff, and that has been a long time coming for the Car Collection Motorsport team. For Gustav Bergström, it's a huge moment in his first year of GT3 competition. Bartone up there as well, back on the podium for what is only the 3rd time this year. Sensational, and Chris Farser did just sneak into the points there in 10th position ahead of Polcini, Pierberg and Walker with the Pro-Am win, and we're waiting for that 3rd and 4th place battle in Pro-Am to come across the line. There's even less time between them. It's still Salakada, and he did beat Bash to the line by less than 0.2 of a second. So ISR are on the Pro-Am podium, I think, for the first time. Yes, they are. That's their first points of the season.
Incredible. What a way to get them as well as podium sitters here in Pro-Am. And once more, Pitama returning to a track where he would take victory last year. This time he's come back and garnered a podium out of absolutely nowhere. Delighted, I'm sure, will be the team at SPS Mercedes, but no more delighted than Gustav Bergström, who is lapping this up. First season, or should we say first season in this style of GT racing, certainly here in the International GT Open, coming in as he has done and performing at this phenomenal level. It's Bergström and Menzel, your winners here at Barcelona Race 1. Bartone and Schiller, they brought it home in second. Baumann and Pitamba in 3rd place. Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert finished 4th. Dunner and Hanses, after spinning Julian Hanses, it was looking so good for them, 5th place. Deleda and Pepper picking up points in P6 with Nicola Marinangeli and Vincent Abril in 7th. De Falco then further down, as well as Polcini. We can take you through as well to Valentin Pierberg, 9th. Christopher Hartzer, 10th. Marco Polcini, 11th. Moretti in 12th. Salakada Milotta, 13th. Their first Pro-Am podium. Marcin Jedlinski, Carol Bash, Laurent de Meus, Jamie Stanley, Muller and Mettler, Hahn and Coder in 17th. Bashar Mardini, Timon van der Helm as well further down. Thomas Eichen 19th, Alex Arkinaka in 20th, Giorgio Sinegiotto finishing 21st as well. We'll take you down to the final runners. Thor Haugen finishing further back. We did, of course, have retirements for the likes of Dan Arrow, Hash and Stuart Proctor, but the emotions clear and prevalent here in the paddock, here in Parc Fermé. All smiles on the face of the Swede, Gustav Bergström. He brought the car home. He was on the cusp of getting a race win back at Austria, but just could not quite lap as fast as Alessio Deleda. But this time, he did it in great style, and that is one they're going to savour. And you never know, that could be the cork out of the proverbial bottle that could lead to further success for the Car Collection Porsche team. And that is only our 3rd pole to victory that we have had this season.
Just sensational. I look at the delight in Parc Fermé there from the team. Just brilliant stuff again. Anthony Bartone, a little bit roughed up in that one.
He's had a rough day.
Came away with 2nd place in the end. He's the one who brought it home. Hanses did still drag that car across the line in 5th position, which so it's still behind Seibert. But remember, that car is under investigation for the incident with James Kell. So Hanses still might get a 4th place finish out of that. I'm sure he is going to be fuming with himself.
Well, the emotion's clear as well. We did see, obviously, the delight on the face of Gustav Bergström. I mean, what a performance from Car Collection. What a performance from this team as well. SPS Performance, Dominic Baumann and Mikael Pitamba at the scene where they would take victory last year. They take yet another podium this campaign. We've also got Anthony Bartone and Fabian Schiller. Schiller's stint was key in order to set up Bartone, and Bartone brought it home, and his defensive efforts were truly a delight to watch, but not enough to stop Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel, winners here for the first time here in the GT Open at Barcelona.
Much awaited and very well deserved and more tasteful, of course. First victory, maiden victory in the GT Open for Car Collection for Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel. Nico, you started the day well.
Yeah, we started it well with a pole position. That's obviously what we wanted. And could manage the pace at the beginning. And at some point, Fabio was a bit quicker. We had a little fight, but then was able to keep the position. Gustav had to re-overtake because it was a bit tight after the pit stop. But you did very well, man.
Thank you. Yeah, Gustav, you did the job in the second part of the race. How was it?
It was good. Nico did all the hard work and I just brought it home. I had to do one overtake, so that's nice. So car was good. Yeah, super happy and thanks for the team.
So first one is ticked, now many more.
Hopefully. I cross my fingers.
Well done, guys.
Far too humble, I think, on part of Gustav Bergström, but nonetheless, winners here. And let's see how they claim victory. It was a great start for Nico Menzel, jumped off the line brilliantly. Fabian Schiller also under pressure as well. There was collisions for the back. Lucas Dunner getting swarmed, heading through the off-track positions. Obviously, Aaron Walker also cutting away. Also, Simon Riker having to take to that escape road as well. But unfortunately for Stuart Proctor, not a great start to the race. Would have an impact from Hash's Porsche. Both cars eventually coming into the pits to retire from action here at Barcelona. But then the driver change window opened up. Nico Menzel providing Gustav Bergström an excellent platform to continue their rampant run through the course of the race. They would eventually, though, come toe-to-toe with Anthony Bartone. This beautiful up and under on part of Gustav Bergström. Given the lack of experience he has underneath him, that was an exquisite move, managing to take the lead of the race away from Bartone. Julian Hans is also taking over as well, managing to pivot his car, almost requisite of what we saw from Bergström as well from earlier on, managing to go up the inside with a switchback on Bartone, who was caught out again, heading down in towards turn 12. Then we had this other moment too. There was wheel-to-wheel action. Unfortunately, Seabear going a little heavy on the brakes, and it was double disaster for Motor Park as Julian Hanses would spin in his maiden weekend. But for the first time in the International GT Open, Car Collection Porsche with Nico Menzel and Gustav Bergström taking victory this season. And these are the scenes behind the podium right now. No doubt the team dressed in blue, not feeling blue at all. It's all joy and happiness. And what could come off the back of this? Appreciate, obviously, it's towards the end of the season, but a win is always welcome and appreciated, even at the moments when we are reaching the precipice of a championship. But this will taste very sweet for them.
Yeah, and speaking of the championship, according to my calculations, which might be a bit rushed, but I make Deleda now leading by 1 point.
Thought it would be slender.
With the number 9 group, Bartone and Schiller, only 10 points back. That second place finish has sort of kept them in the championship hunt just about, like as an outside shot. But remember, still 45 points up for grabs in these last 2 races, the endurance race. But move on to the podium. All German teams on the podium. Don't remember the last time we saw that. But it is Baumann and Patamba back up on the podium again for the first time since the second race at the Hungaro Ring. That's been a long time coming for them. Fabi and Bartone up there for the 3rd time this season as well, but for the first time on the top step, the Car Collection team with Gustav Bergström and Nico Menzel.
It's going to mean a lot to them, obviously, and obviously it was an almighty fight on Bartone's part. National anthem. So there we have it. The national anthem of Germany being rung out here at Barcelona, and credit to all involved here. The Michelin representatives presenting the prizes, third place going to Michael Pitamba and Dominic Baumann, who I must say have been one of the more consistent performers through the course of this season. They've only not scored in one round, and that was race 1 at Austria, where it all kind of fell apart. And of course, we were in the midst of mixed conditions through the course of that weekend, so you could call that a dummy round, I would say, if you add that into context. But it's been a sensational season for Pitamba and Baumann.
I'm sure that podium would come as quite a surprise to them, because 2 laps to go, they were in, what, 6th?
P5, 6,
yeah.
I think, at that time.
It
was Hans's, the moment with Hans's that really twisted it, and the Seeber's penalty.
The Kell incident as well with Seeber, still under investigation, but yeah, that's going to be a sweet photo there for both Gustav and Nico to have there on the wall as Mr. Santamaria presenting them with the trophies. And yeah, just a big moment for the for the team in general. Their first year in the international at GT Open, and I'm going to sound like a broken clock here, but Bergstrom's first year in GT3 competition. I cannot undersell the step up here in the competition that they've stepped into, and it's been remarkable watching the development and the progress of young Gustav. And yeah, I called him the Iceman earlier because you can't get the kid's heart rate up at all. In the interview, like, oh yeah, I had to do an overtake. Yeah, it's whatever.
I think personally, he sold his stint a little short, I think, because his moves there towards the end.
If that was me, I'd be going, I did amazing. I had to do that move. Did you see me go through on the inside? That was amazing.
I think I might have also left a little bit of George Morgan magic when I sat in that seat earlier on today when I was in their garage. They let me in. They let me in there to sit in the car and just obviously take stock of the true nature of this beast that is the Porsche that they have and they utilise here in the GT Open. And it is a phenomenal piece of machinery. Obviously, it took me a while to get in the car, first and foremost, hence why I have a lot more appreciation for the driver changes, but truly amazing. And credit to them both. I mean, I think that they rightfully deserve it. Obviously, Gustav Bergstrom, Porsche Carrera Cup Scandinavia in 2023, GT4 Scandinavia in 2022, 24-hour series back in 2022 as well, and has spent some time in Porsches in the Sport Challenge Scandinavia back in 2021. But yeah, I would say in the true nature of multi-class competition and multi-manufacturer, this is the first real major trip for him.
ISR Audi on the top, on the podium for the first time in the international GT.
Yeah, obviously on the top step, and credit to Valentin Pierberg and Aaron Walker. Obviously Walker, with that initial stint, qualified well at the very start, and obviously finished very strongly. And congratulations as well to the team of Milotta and Salicata. ISR Audi celebrating an incredible podium and their first points of the championship so far. And brilliant effort.
And yeah, so according to my calculations, Polcini hasn't quite wrapped it up just yet, the Pro-Am Championship. But so long as he isn't outscored by, what is it, 3 points, I think it is, tomorrow, by Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, then should
seal the deal.
He should be able to seal the deal tomorrow. And so that second place finish for Polcini and Cheever is a huge result for them. And so tomorrow they're in a really good position to wrap up the championship. But for Valentin Pierberg and Aaron Walker as well, second victory, fourth time on the podium in Pro-Am this year. Another great performance from them after a very difficult start to the year for them. They had 3 consecutive non-scores, and then they've rather taken off.
And another German team victory as well. Obviously taking victory in Pro-Am, as well as taking all 3 steps of the podium in the overall. So
and in AM as well.
And in AM too.
So double win for Motorpark as well between... oh, no, sorry. Sorry, GetSpeed. Adam Osaka's going to come for me. Sorry, so it was GetSpeed winning in Pro-Am, and yes, a Motor Park victory in in Am. Heiko Neumann and Timo Rumpfkarl. So I haven't worked out the one for the Am yet, but don't think Cipriani is in a position just yet to seal the deal. But tomorrow might be a different story. He was third in the end. And he has been outscored by his two closest competitors, Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka, Getsby car, and the Rumpfkarl Neumann Motor Park car that won in the end by just 0.6 of a second. It came down to. Incredible stuff. Cipriani continues his fantastic form. Only one race where he hasn't been on the podium in Am so far this year, and you might think, well, there's only 4 or 5 cars on average in it, and what's that mean? Well, it means making the checkered flag in every single race, because everyone else has had the drop scores, nothing to take. For Rumpfkarl and Neumann, it is a third victory of the season. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, Giuseppe Cipriani, once again, legend of the championship in his own right, such a long-term servant here of the GT Open Championship. Third place in Pro-Am, still leading the championship fight in Am, I should say. But also celebrating on the Getsby team once more, Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka receiving their second place Am trophies. And a phenomenal effort on their part too. And a huge drive as well. Of course, we saw them right in the thick of it, obviously getting involved in that blue flag situation as well. Timo Rumpfkarl and Heiko Neumann celebrating yet another Am success. And after the difficulties they had back at Austria, this is going to feel brilliant. But folks, what a tremendous race. It was certainly one to watch. We'll be back tomorrow for more action. Join us for qualifying at 9:30.